due process that the Supreme Court and Judge Wilkinson has required you to give him.
Borrego Garcia is an El Salvador resident who is in his home country. If he were to come back to this country, he would be immediately removed again.
How do you know?
He has received and been treated appropriately,
So
sir, and he is not.
How can you say he's been treated appropriately if the Supreme Court has ruled 9-0? 9-0 that he hasn't been treated appropriately. Why is your opinion better and have more authority than the Supreme Court?
Investigators, 2 judges, an immigration court that all said he was MS-13 and was removed from this country.
But you understand, that is you saying that. That is you saying that.
That is them saying that. This
no.
is investigators and law enforcement officers.
That is you making that determination.
Against him. If you don't trust
the court has considered all that. The judge has considered all that, Madam Secretary. And if you would be quiet, because I'm reclaiming my time, you are not following this court order. But let's focus on the court order, because this opinion also says that to facilitate, which the Supreme Court is requiring, is an active verb. It requires that steps be taken. What steps have you taken to return Mr. Borrego Garcia to allow him to get due process?
Borrego Garcia is in his home country.
What steps have you taken?
If your continued advocacy for him were to...
I'm not advocating for...
Patriots. Today, we're exposing a shocking case that puts America's core freedoms and the rule of law in jeopardy. This isn't just about one court case or one government official. This is about the left undermining our Constitution, ignoring the Supreme Court, and pushing their agenda at the expense of our country's laws and values. Stay tuned, because it's time to fight back and hold these bureaucrats accountable for their blatant disregard of justice. If you believe in defending America's principles, smash that subscribe button, like this video, and share it with every patriot you know. And don't go anywhere, because at the end, we'll share exactly how you can take action to defend due process and stop the weaponization of our immigration system. Let's dive in. Recently, in Congress, Representative Gleman put the Biden administration's secretary on the hot seat over their refusal to follow a Supreme Court order. That's right. A 9-0 decision by the highest court in the land was blatantly ignored. This isn't just incompetence. It's a direct attack on the balance of power in our government. The Constitution clearly gives the judiciary the authority to interpret the law, but the Biden administration thinks they're above it. This case revolves around Mr. Borrego Garcia, an El Salvadoran national who was deported despite a court order protecting him from removal. Now, let's be clear. Garcia is accused of being a member of MS-13, one of the most violent and dangerous gangs in the world. If that's true, then yes, he should be deported. But here's the catch. The Constitution guarantees due process to everyone. The Supreme Court made it crystal clear that Garcia was not given his due process rights. Yet, the Biden administration continues to ignore the ruling, claiming they know better than the courts.
I now recognize Mr. Gleman for 5 minutes questioning.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would like to go back to Mr. Borrego Garcia's case, Madam Secretary. But my first question for you is a pretty simple one. It's basic civics. Which branch of government does the Constitution give the authority to interpret what the law is, the judiciary or the executive branch?
Sir, going forward, the interpretation of the law, you make the laws in this body. The judicial branch makes sure that they have integrity and they're applied properly to individuals.
So I'm just going to take that as the judiciary branch. Now, let's focus for a second on what the judiciary branch has said about this case. We know the Supreme Court has said 9-0 that notwithstanding your statements under oath here today that Mr. Borrego Garcia was afforded due process, he was in fact not afforded due process, because then if he were, you would have seen the withholding order that did not permit him to be deported to El Salvador. Now you allege, and I guess the Attorney General alleges, that he's a member of MS-13. That may very well be the case. And if he is, now that is a foreign terrorist organization, certainly the immigration laws would allow him, and in fact require him, to be deported. I certainly would support that. But the problem that we have here is what you allege, what Ms. Green alleges, what the Attorney General alleges, is not the judiciary. You don't get to decide whether or not he is an MS-13 member. And you don't have to take my word for it, because Judge Wilkinson, a Fourth Circuit judge, very conservative, addressed this argument. He said, the government asserts that Abrego Garcia is a terrorist and a member of MS-13. Perhaps, but perhaps not. Regardless, he is still entitled to due process. If the government is confident in its position, it should be assured that position will prevail in proceedings to terminate the withholding of removal order. Will you commit right now to give Mr. Abrego Garcia that process where you can prove your allegation that he is a member of MS-13?
Congressman, that judge that you just quoted did not say he was not a member of MS-13. Who did say that he was a member of MS-13 was law enforcement officers that encountered this individual.
Yeah, he knows that. This is a Fourth Circuit judge. He knows all of what the evidence is, and he's saying if that evidence. So you're not going to commit to follow this order. You won't commit to follow this court order.
By the way, he identified
Madam Secretary,
himself.
I reclaim my time. Stop filibustering.
He was surrounded by gang members of MS-13.
Will you give Mr. Abrego Garcia the due process that the Supreme Court and Judge Wilkinson has required you to give him?
Abrego Garcia is an El Salvador resident who is in his home country. If he were to come back to this country, he would be immediately removed again.
How do you know?
He has received and been treated appropriately,
so
sir, and he is not.
How can you say he's been treated appropriately if the Supreme Court has ruled 9-0? 9-0 that he hasn't been treated appropriately? Why is your opinion better and have more authority than the Supreme Court?
Investigators, 2 judges, an immigration court that all said he was MS-13 and was removed from this country.
But you understand, that is you saying that. That is you saying that.
That is them saying that. This
no.
is investigators and law enforcement officers
making that determination
against him. If you don't trust
the
our law
court
enforcement
has considered all that. The judge has considered all that, Madam Secretary. And if you would be quiet, because I'm reclaiming my time, you are not following this court order. But let's focus on the court order, because this opinion also says that to facilitate, which the Supreme Court is requiring, is an active verb. It requires that steps be taken. What steps have you taken to return Mr. Abrego Garcia to allow him to get due process?
Abrego Garcia is in his home country.
What steps have you taken?
If your continued advocacy for him were to...
I'm not advocating for him. I'm advocating for a court order, Madam Secretary. The court order says that you must take steps to follow the court order. You are here under oath. What steps have you taken to return Mr. Abrego Garcia pursuant to this court order?
It's got to be extremely discouraging to be one of your constituents. To see you fight for a terrorist like this and not fight for them is extremely alarming to me.
I'm fighting for due process, and that's under the Constitution.
The gentleman's time has expired.
Due process.
The gentleman's time has expired. I now recognize...
Representative Gleman called out this hypocrisy. He demanded to know what steps the administration has taken to comply with the court order. The Secretary's response? Deflection, excuses, and outright refusal to answer. She even had the audacity to say Garcia was treated appropriately. Patriots, how is it appropriate to defy the Supreme Court and trample on the Constitution? This is bigger than one case. This is about whether the government gets to pick and choose which laws to follow. It's about whether unelected bureaucrats get to decide who is entitled to justice. And make no mistake, if they can ignore due process for one person, they can ignore it for you. We cannot allow the left to weaponize our immigration system and use national security concerns as a smokescreen to strip away constitutional rights. This is exactly why we need strong conservative leadership to hold the line and protect our freedoms. The judiciary exists for a reason, to keep the executive branch in check. When that balance is destroyed, tyranny follows. Now is the time to stand together and demand accountability. Call your representatives. Write to your senators. Make your voices heard. This administration needs to know that we, the American people, will not sit quietly while they dismantle the rule of law. If you're ready to take a stand, subscribe to Conservative Mandate right now. Join our growing community of patriots who are fighting every day to defend the Constitution and protect America's future. Like this video, share it with your friends, and comment below with how you plan to take action. Together, we can and will make a difference. Stay strong, patriots. And remember, Freedom isn't free. Let's fight for it.